I am live. Hello, 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 everyone. Um, it is 2 a.m. in the morning here. I hope that it's a little later for you all out there. I'd be surprised if anyone from Hawaii actually tuned into this. But hey, 80s, 90s fan, I think this is Nigel, isn't it? Right, Nigel? Good morning from Hawaii. Greetings from India. Hawaiian C. Wow, you up late. Yeah, or early, actually. Hawaiian, but that means that you must be up late or early. Um, I'm wondering if Hawaiian C is Carl. Hello, David from the UK. Say hello to Tinker for me. Aw. She says hi. She's always well, she's Tinker. We're going through some riffs right now because I just bought her like these little dog buttons, these talking buttons that I've seen on Instagram. I can't remember who. I think I follow Hungry for Words, and her dog, she like has taught the dog to speak with the buttons, and so she'll ask the dog some questions, and the dog will hit the buttons, and it's really cool. And so I bought Tinker like 4 buttons, but she won't touch them. So we're going through some challenges right now. Hey Fred, nice to see you here. Thank you for joining in. You are all the way on the East Coast, so I think you are 8 o'clock in the morning. Hi Carrie, you too. Wait, Fred, no, you're not in the East Coast. You're more on the Pacific side, West Coast. And Carrie, you are in the East Coast. So glad you guys could come in. If I have it wrong, please correct me, and I apologize. I'm just gonna spend East Coast. Okay, yeah, so I was right. My secondary thought was Portland, and I'm not sure why. I'm thinking of Jay, I think. I'm just gonna wait a couple more minutes before I launch in to see who else comes in. Click to reboot. Hi from Scotland. Hello. Thank you. I wonder what time it is there. Scotland is still someplace I still need to visit, and I would love to. I hear it's like a great spot for solo travelers. Um, really mellow. 1 1 a.m. Holy mackerel. That's even earlier than me. You'll have to show me around. I would feel lost there. Let's have a short of Tinker when she does play with it. Yes, yes. I've already filmed us sort of unpacking a little bit of it. It might take a while. Although she really did adapt to the doggles. I've got her doggles too. We don't use them as much now, but she wears them. They're like dog goggles. Hello, Lynn from Malaysia. It is 8:04 p.m. there. Oh, in Scotland. No, I was wrong. It's 1:05 p.m. Malaysia. That's someplace I have to go back to. I feel like I gypped Malaysia because I went very unprepared and unresearched, and I went with a friend that I had picked up in India when I was doing a yoga retreat there, or like a yoga teacher's certification program. And we went to Malaysia, and we were both on the vegetarian side, and everything we were hitting was meat, and so that kind of colored my time there for a little while. But there was one place that I really loved in Malaysia that I wish that I blogged about because it was one of those safari places. And I can't remember where I went to. Um, starts with a B, I think. But it was just kind of one of those, kind of like a jungle area. Yeah, I wish I could remember. But it was that was like one of my highlights. Was I think that was close to one of my first safaris, And I do believe I did my first night safari there. And I was like, wow, there's night safaris? I didn't even know you could do that. Hello, Juliana from New Jersey. I know I'm kind of lives do throw me off. I do get a little anxious about them. I still haven't gotten used to lives because it's so impromptu, and sometimes I speak without a filter, and then I think to myself, "Oh my god, what did I just say? Did I really want to say that?" Because sometimes I feel like online, in the public forum, sometimes I have to be conscious of what I say. In the sense of I don't want to offend a lot of people. There are many different countries and cultures that can tune in, and some of them can take offense to things. So it's this weird thing of being a travel vlogger where like sarcasm, like when I was living in New York, sarcasm was just kind of like the language that you speak. And other cultures don't get that sarcasm, and they think that you're being serious and you're being offensive and rude. So I have to catch myself on certain things. But yeah, I feel like live streams are kind of a little mortifying to me. I don't like to watch them afterwards, um, because yeah, no filter. And it's not only that; it's because I know that because I'm not with anyone to prompt me or ask me questions or guide me with the questions to say, like, hey, okay, let's change the subject. I have to prompt myself. So it's a lot of self prompting in my head and trying to stay on track with what I'm saying and trying not to get distracted sometimes by the feed. Um, but yeah, if I miss you, if you folks out, please, I hope you guys came with questions. Um, because today I'm going to be sharing some updates of what I've been going through. Obviously, I've been offline or off YouTube for a substantial amount of time, and you guys have been seeing the shorts coming out, and you're probably like wondering, like, what happened to her long format stuff, and are we just going to do shorts now? So I just kind of want to jump on and answer some questions, but also let you guys know uh, what's been going on with me. WD Trot, hello from my holiday in Croatia. Oh, damn, you had to say that, didn't you? That is another place that I just really feel like I should have been traveling a long time ago. Nutcake Man, good day, mate, from Australia. It is 10:05 p.m. Whew. And Lynn says, you're always welcome back to Malaysia. We have a lot of cuisines you need to try. Yes, I do need to try. I don't know if I've tried mangosteens. Durian chips, but not durian. I've not been tested that way yet. NG25, hi from Glasgow. Oh, awesome. Holy mackerel. Yeah, I feel like I'm traveling vicariously through your comments in this feed. Okay, so I've made a few notes for myself just so that I can kind of stay on yeah, missing that word. But like I said, I've been kind of MIA, and that's because obviously a lot has changed. The first time I went through my first burnout, dun dun dun, was largely during the pandemic. We had a lot of social justice, rallies that we had to go through, Asian hate, politics, the crash of travel, and my channel and business and everything that I worked for since 2008. Um, and I was dealing with a lot of depression and trying to pivot and getting frustrated. But at the same time, it was a very good time for me to finally just kind of like bear down on the priorities that I always put off, like designing my own merch, or creating a YouTube course. These are things that I actually really thought that I wanted to do a while ago. But when you are juggling all these different things and you're trying to keep up with this schedule of weekly outputs, or weekly videos, long format, social media, a blog, trying to monetize or make sure that I'm making enough money to be sustainable. All these things, they really start weighing you down. And even when I was able to bring on an editor, thanks to my Patreon people, um, who helped me afford that, even that was just like extra work because I was managing another person too. So that was, um, the burnout was just dealing with a lot of stuff. And then burnout number two happened. And all this time where you're seeing like my stuff where I'm posting content like short format videos and stuff, it is still me struggling through the burnout, um struggling trying to figure out the pivot that I want to do because I'm seeing, well, for the most part, a lot of changes been going on different platforms, right? You've got a lot of the reels, the TikTok thing, the YouTube shorts, and everyone being supercharged to post daily. So it's all these things, um trying to keep up with them and figure out myself in the process. Seeing a lot of new travel vloggers coming in and doing kind of like the same thing where I feel like the travel world is kind of like we're all doing guides and top highlights and best things to do and things to eat and first impressions and 24 hours in, all of these things. And so I think like the newer generation that's coming in, they've seen the path that we went through in the battle wounds, and they can refine that and they can do it faster and better. And I guess in that whole bubble, I kind of felt a little lost too. Like what do I do now? Do I stay and keep doing the same thing or do I need to change? Obviously, I need to change. And the short format videos are kind of helping me find my way, but they're also cheaper to do, versus the longer format at this time, as well as the traveling part, right? So I think, sorry, I'm being distracted. Um, Michael says he can't stand the shorts thing that's popular right now. Yeah. Uh, it's and it's a really hard thing to keep up with just because it's being pumped out so quickly due to the platforms and their algorithms. So when the algorithms change for all of us, then, or like for different platforms, the creators need to shift in order to get our work out to you guys who have already subscribed to us. And that's kind of like the catch 22 of working with the algorithm and our content. Is a lot of times when it's on these different platforms, we are just kind of like subjects, little subjects of that platform. And we need to kind of not obey the law, but kind of obey the law and satisfy certain things in order to get our work out there. So like it's the smallest things. Like, yes, Instagram is known to go full reels now, and so daily reels is ideal. Facebook, I need to sprinkle them out. I can't have too many outgoing links to my blogs. I need to post more photos, a little bit of video, but it has to be sort of short-term video because people on Facebook are shorter attention span and more entertainment meme based. It's just like all these things are things that I need to know as a content creator in order to eventually get my word out to you guys. But it is kind of troubling because when I see all the short form content coming out, it's worrisome because I don't know my audience as well now. It's training audiences to have a quicker attention span. And when they have a quicker attention span, then we need to shift again to be able to catch that attention span and hold on to it and keep it. So the challenges get to be a little bit more than they were way back when I started. And I was just like trugging along, just doing kind of what I wanted to do. Now it's just like, okay, obey certain laws, figure out your audience, and what they want to see, and then try and keep them watching, to the end. So, um, there are times that I would think to myself, well, maybe my challenges are not big enough, to hook attentions. Maybe I'm traveling alone too much, and maybe that's boring to you guys because you need to see other activity, which is also why I started bringing in hosts and like local guides and stuff, just to give that extra being next to me. Um, but it's all these little things that factor into the overall end end product of a video, unfortunately. So yeah, Lynn is just like, I can imagine the pressure of constantly coming up with new ideas. It it's I can tell you, like on the creator side, if you could see the world that I see and how everyone is just like, okay, well, we're gonna batch content create. We are gonna schedule all our videos, for the next month, and then try and film them all consecutively and then edit them all. And it's a changing world, and there are times that I'm not sure that I can keep up with it. Especially seeing as I think when I first, before the pandemic, I thought to myself, okay, well, we're starting to do good. We're sort of sustainable now, and maybe I can retire in 5 years. Because I'm getting older, and do I really want to be a run and gun person and juggle everything, all the time I travel? Because it gets to be exhausting. Um, and I think there's this one question uh, that delighting ground to 2021 on Instagram asked me, because I asked you guys to bring questions. He was like, "What's your biggest peeve when traveling?" Actually, he asked like three good questions, and some of them are big ones. But he's like, "What's your biggest pet peeve when traveling?" Well, one is tourists that just have no respect for the culture or the environment or wildlife or marine life. You know, people who just um, are just there for self gratification. And I understand we all want to have fun, we all want to let go, but at the cost of a culture or the environment. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, is watching people. Um, to do a quick tangent before I get back to what I was gonna say, is like a couple weeks ago, I don't know, I kind of did a brief post on like turtles, like the turtle beach in Hawaii, and how all of a sudden there were like tourists snorkeling in their little sunbathing area just so that they could catch, because you have to stay away from the turtles. They're like an endangered species. They are, like you cannot touch them in Hawaii. We have they're yeah, we are very our turtles are very sacred. So the tourists couldn't touch them. They couldn't go near them. So instead, they snorkeled in the water where they could get closer to the turtles. And so you saw like this little cove area where there's all these signs saying how to respect the turtles there and whatnot. And then you see like the cove just littered with all these snorkelers. And that was just annoying to me. So it's yeah, that's one of my pet peeves. Or like in Thailand, I remember I see like a lot of tourists walking into 7-Elevens like without shirts. So I'm talking about guys, obviously. But they walk into the 7-Elevens, as kind of like bros, and they're shirtless, and it's, for me, that's shocking too, because the Thai are very, you know, conservative people. And even though it's a very flexible, they allow a lot of things due to tourism, I feel like the tourists that end up there are really bad tourists because they just really don't respect the culture and they're just there to party. So that's kind of like my big tangent, but back to the biggest pet peeve. The second biggest pet peeve that I've been noticing, just because I am a solo creator and my job is to juggle the video, the hosting, the direction, producing any content, figuring out how I'm going to get to where I need to get to, my budget, and then my Instagram stories, and then my Instagram photos. It's just a full, multimedia company that I'm juggling in myself when I travel. And my biggest pet peeve is just like sometimes that I have to juggle all of that and there's just no help. So because I'm juggling all that stuff, it's like the smallest things that'll get me. Like my hair stuck under my backpack strap. That'll be like that. I'll be like, and I will just like rip out my hair because I'm just so frustrated. Or just like if there's sweat, like plastering my hair and I need to vlog and I'm just like, ah, it's those little things because it's already a lot of work, and then it's just like these little extra things that hinder me that I'm like, why does life have to be so hard? So that's kind of like a long form of um another pet peeve of mine. But anyways, I did finally take my first trip to Memphis, and at first I was kind of, no, I'm not gonna say afraid, but I was kind of afraid because it was my first trip out, after the pandemic, or no, the pandemic's still here, but it was my first trip on a plane amongst other people who might be unmasked, of which, a good half of the travelers in the plane were. Um, but I survived. And it wasn't as bad as I thought. And obviously you just need to navigate that realm, of feeling awkward going into something and then feeling like, okay, I remember how this feels again. So I went to Memphis to speak at a conference, and Memphis was really cool, more cool than I thought it would be. Because at first I thought it was just all about Elvis, and I do have Memphis videos that I shot. Um, they are still waiting to be edited, and at this point, well, I'll go into that a little later. But um, it was surprising. I wanted to do a video on like all the things that, like my first impressions of Memphis and things you should know. And really, I just ended up doing a blog post on it. But I found it very fascinating because it was a largely African American culture, which is phenomenal in the United States because we have a lot of cities that are predominantly Caucasian or white. Uh, but that was the first state that I've been to where it was predominantly African American. And there was a whole history around that culture, and how Memphis was kind of like groundbreaking in its own ways with music and the integration of African American people and them having their own business and a lot of really cool stuff. So I highly recommend it to a lot of people. I eventually met friends up there, or like some friends came up to visit me, or a friend, and he brought another friend. Um, and I was really grateful for that because I was still running through burnout. I mean, this burnout is a big one. It was a big one. Um, I was still going through burnout, and I had the hardest time getting back into the state of vlogging, because my brain was still kind of crashed from a lot of things. And um, yeah, it's really helpful because the next thing about Memphis that I didn't expect was that even though there's a very pedestrian aspect to it, there's also things are also spread out quite far. So when I went through the conference initially, I knew that I would eventually have to get out and explore in Memphis, but one of the things that kind of intimidated me was the fact that I realized that a lot of these sites were also spread outside of downtown. And people were taking Ubers. And I was like, I don't think I can afford to take Ubers every day back and forth because it wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap. like one way, like going from my hotel to downtown was like roughly around $10, and then that was only one way and not a round trip. So I was like, I don't know if I could do this every day to every little location. But I managed, thankfully, because my friend had a car. And so I cheated in that aspect because I didn't do it solo, and I was grateful. um, okay, so I'm seeing more stuff about like, yeah, what your pet peeves are. Yeah. Tourists that make loud noises, that wear tank tops and shorts and flip-flops in Buddhist temples. Yeah. Um, that tourists disregard and disrespect the laws and culture of another country. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how to understand. I mean, I kind of get it, but I kind of don't because, wherever you go, you want to respect the culture. I feel like we're all visitors there, and we're, it's we're not entitled to be treated specially, or it doesn't make us any different, and we're not entitled to break laws or tromp on cultures. So okay. So okay, so I went through the second burnout is just the fact that, yeah, the landscape's been changing. I The second burnout was partially, yeah, landscape's still changing. I'm starting to engineer bigger things like my group trips. And I think due to age, my body is changing as well. And I'm having difficulty with that. I think I'm having difficulty with the aging process, and the fact that things are starting to fall, and 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 joints are starting to hurt a little bit more, and it's something that happens when you grow older. um so I think it's just feeling my mortality, and my energy drops, and I don't know if it's because I'm constantly working on content or engineering the group trips, or trying to monetize, or all these things, as well as juggling my life outside and work outside and freelance work and opportunities. I'm not sure if it's that or if it's the fact that I'm getting older, and that's where fatigue is coming in. And there are times that I come home at 8 o'clock, I'm just like, I can't even stay up. Like I'm passing out at that point, and not waking up to the next day. Whereas before, I could spend like all nighters. I could do like I could work till 3, I could work till 5, and that is a content creator's life, I will tell you that. If you meet any content creator that has boundaries and says like, "Okay, we're gonna spend, Saturday and Sundays, that's gonna be our free day where we just do nothing or we just play or whatnot." If you can find a content creator that is like that, then bravo. Because our days just I feel like my days just run into nights, and maybe that's because I'm solo, and doing it all on my own. But so yeah, one thing was energetically I was changing and trying to get back to my old form. I don't know if I gained weight from the pandemic. All these things, they drag on you when you are creating content and you're trying to put yourself out there, and you're like, why is my life going so wrong in so many different ways? Um, but uh yeah. So in terms of energy, it's there are times that I just go kind of brain dead. And I know my Patreon folks have seen like one of my videos that I put out. I think it was a live that I did for them on Facebook, where I kind of just shared that like how I kind of am when I go brain dead. And it's just like, I can't remember what I was gonna say. It just it's hard to even think. So the burnout is this like mental exhaust, physical exhaust, um, and just not being able to think of anything or write anything or be creative. It's like that drastic where I have to literally do something just physical, just like yeah, physical so that I don't have to think. And that's where like my freelance has been awesome because I'm in video production. And so it's a lot of physical work, like setting cameras up, breaking them down, filming things. I don't have to think about those things. So I know people that Juliana says, I know people that always are waiting to retire to go on a trip. There's no promises you'll be able to do that when you're older or you're retired. That's true. You should never really wait. I think sometimes a lot of us we put off what we know we want to do or should do. No, well, not should do, but want to do. And that is a should because we want it and time passes. Like my mom, unfortunately, before the pandemic, she really wanted to go to Las Vegas. And my family is a big Las Vegas. White people are like big about Las Vegas. My parents go to Las Vegas, like they used to go annually. Um, and she really wanted to go, but she had all these excuses. Well, I can't go because there's Tinker and she's diabetic and she needs her insulin, and your dad, he's getting dementia, and you know I just need to wait for and I've got this medical like doctor's appointment, and I just need to wait. And then the pandemic hit, and then my dad got worse, you know and then now we're in the state of, well, no Las Vegas. And that's because, yeah, you always think that tomorrow, 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 you can go forward on your dreams, and you keep putting things off. You keep putting it off until you miss that window. And I think for me, I'm always afraid that I'm gonna miss a window, and sometimes I just leap because I know that window just opens, sometimes just a crack. Like for me being like right now, because I'm doing freelance, it's so my schedule is so erratic. I don't know when I'm getting work and and when they're gonna book me. Literally, I don't know. Like tomorrow I work and my call time is 8:30, but they could change it tomorrow at 7 a.m. It could change to 11 or whatever. And I just have to like shift. So I feel like my window is always there's a moment where it opens and it's just like a little smidget. And if I don't jump through it, then I'll miss it entirely. And that's how I feel like sometimes we wait on things and they just don't quite pan out. Um, so one thing I want to say is while I'm doing this, I've been trying really hard to put my group trips together. And I almost launched for a Japan trip in November, and unfortunately, things did not pan out, uh, which was a huge letdown because I put a lot of time and energy into it. And so now I'm kind of tossed into this new realm of researching more. And I feel like I'm learning how to become like a tour operator at this point, and it's really excessive. I'm learning a little too much, more than I wanted to. Um, and so that's another thing that's really weighing on me and kind of making me exhausted is I've been searching for or researching different tour operators to help me engineer the ideas that I have for my group trips. Japan right now is going through they're still very regulated. The regulations are very strict, but they are opening up. um I was hoping to push through in November, and that would have been still like it still would have been good even though it's highly regulated. There because people, Japan would still be somewhat empty. You need to go through a tour in order to, you know, visit Japan right now. And it has to be a local operator that needs to handle your tour. There are other small things like you can't take public transportation from the airport to your hotel. It has to be a private vehicle. Um, and every day, like I said, you have to be on a tour, meaning you need to have a tour guide every day. So right now, it's very strict like that. And speaking to the operators that I did, it seems like they feel like it's going to open up probably around fall. Don't quote me on that because it could change. But that was um that was a hopeful sign that things would be, gradually get a little looser. And I think maybe around April or spring, by then maybe the restrictions will be down. So I'm still trying to work for that. Still trying to organize that freaking Japan trip. It's becoming the bane of my existence. But in the meanwhile, I have Caravan, Vahan. I hope I pronounced that right. One of my Patreon family. He asks, will there be any solo travel or group travel to alternate designations like New Zealand if Japan is too restrictive? If you're asking about my group trips, then yes, I have things on the back burner. I have other destinations that I'm juggling because I'm trying to go through the survey that I made you guys fill out in terms of expressing your interest. And the top two were Japan and Thailand. And then from there, it just kind of like, you know, gradually it was like chunks of countries that came into ties. So Thailand was the other one I was working on until the operator wanted to charge me $4,000 to run the tour. Uh, it's just right now, I can't even tell you. So I'm going to the third destination and I'm gradually making my way down the list to see what I can actually procure for you guys. And I know there are a lot of a lot of influencers out there that are banging out their group trips right now. And I've been wanting to do this, I think since like 4 years ago. I've been wanting to ride my own group trips. And it's been taking me longer. And I'm like, why me? Why life? You got to make my road so much more steps than everyone else's. Like, why can't I just be like, boom, I've got a trip, everyone jump aboard. Why do I have to freaking learn, about insurance, about contracts, about payment processing software, all this stuff. So that's what's bogging me down. If I'm silent, if you're not seeing me turn up on a lot of things, it's because I'm doing some heavy lifting. It's very heavy. So yeah, that is my life. But I'm gonna also open this up to questions now, more questions. Um Hawaiian C says, go for March. It open up a bit more. Yeah, I think it will. I really do think by spring Japan will be like opened. Although at that time everyone's just gonna be flooding through. So expect it to get a lot more crowded. These days, a lot of places are getting crowded, and I feel like we're gonna head back into over tourism. I can see it happening in Hawaii already. Where if our state is not more careful about regulating things, that we could become like Thailand in the sense of we'd have like disrespectful tourists. Um, And I think that's what a lot of cities are undergoing is how to regulate things and how to go back to sustainability so that their resources aren't destroyed or exhausted by the tourism. Um, do a tour here in Hawaii. Yeah. Uh, we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. Right now, I haven't had people express interest in Hawaii, and that's partly why I haven't posted content about Hawaii. I know that Hawaii is probably the most obvious place for me to start filming again. But there are other challenges that I think make it hard for me. One being is that the cost of everything is a lot more than some of the destinations I go to. And yes, I would say it's even more than Japan. Just if I were to do a food tour, I'm looking at what, $10 to $12 maybe a dish. So no hauls. That's not going to happen unless, there's more money that comes in. Um, so those are challenges as well as gas prices these days in the United States. Even though I think it's starting to slowly go down a bit, it's still high. So getting around is costly. And I even like my own life, I try to limit my driving to to work only or essentials only. So we'll see. Hawaii is obviously I think that Hawaii is an awesome state. I love my I want to say country. It's sometimes it feels like a country, its own country. Um, but there are those challenges of things being a little more expensive, even though our beaches are free and you can enjoy nature. There are other aspects about it that make it a little bit more costly for me, and I have to be more conscious of the strategy in terms of how I want to tackle Hawaii and what I want to feature. Um, Also, there are aspects about Hawaii that I really love, like our 7-Elevens. Oh my god, I really wanted to do like a 7-Eleven video, but because my audience is not really like because there's no strong interest in 7-Elevens, then I feel like I would just be making a video for other YouTubers to research and do better by making that video better than mine and perform. Yeah, I would just be like doing the research for them. So that's kind of also why I kind of keep myself from doing a 7-Eleven video, although I'm super tempted because we have a lot of really cool foods. And obviously 7-Eleven, they're a little more affordable. Um, Nigel says 80s, 90s man. The pandemic has really created a wreck globally from the tourism industries to food and beverage industries and businesses in a bad situation. Even the common people suffered because of the pandemic. Yeah, yeah. India is another place that I'm still trying to get a group tour in. Um, so one of the other questions is how long did it take you for you to generate a good number of followers and earn income to live off of? This is again from Delightning Around 2021 on Instagram. And that's a really interesting question because it took me a long time. It took me a really long time because I started YouTube in 2012. But I will say that YouTube in 2012 and that era was completely different because there was a lot that you couldn't monetize. I mean, like the whole idea of influencers and paid brand deals and monetization and whatnot was very limited and minimal and almost non-existent. And it only within the past, I want to say 3 years or 5 years, I feel like has the age of influencers come about where content creators can actually make a living doing what they love to do, you know? When I started out, it was like the wild, wild west, and there would be like press trips, and press trips are like when destination or tourism boards invite you over, and they're like, "Hey, we'll come fly you out and show you around our place, put you up at a hotel and whatnot." And they were initially made for journalists to, who would pitch magazines, to share stories like travel ideas through these magazines. That was what press trips were initially for. They were for the journalists, and the journalists look at bloggers and they're just like, who are you guys? You guys are so unprofessional. You're not one of us. And the bloggers, we were just kind of like, well, we love to travel too, and we won't take like years to come out with a guidebook like you guys are going to do. But the destination boards, for the longest time, and even still to today, they'd be like, okay, well, you know, we will give you this in exchange for all of this work that you can do for us in promoting our destination. And it was really hard because you couldn't really negotiate with them. I was coming from a video television background where all of that stuff the client takes care of. They take care of flying you out, putting you up in a hotel, giving you a meal stipend, paying for a rental car so you can get around, and then you get paid for doing your one job of filming something or directing something or producing something. Your one job. But with content creators, it was kind of like a different story. People were just kind of like, oh, we're gonna give you this cool swag, in exchange for all this work. And so that's where it felt like it was really a challenge to make a living doing what I was doing for the longest time. So the longest time I did it because I loved doing it. And I was going to travel anyways. And then eventually, when things were monetized a little bit more, it became more easy, but it also became challenging because there was more competition. And um, then it was just there are times it felt like a numbers game. So eventually, I grew, yeah, and I can't say that I was very focused on growing because at that time it wasn't like I was going for 100,000. I didn't know many people that had 100,000 followers. So it's like nowadays the YouTubers that are coming out, they already know what the maximum limit or like what the end goal is. Whereas before we were just kind of making the path to get there and not knowing what that end goal really was and if we could make a living off of it. So for me, I was just mostly focused on my audience and offering value to them and trying to inspire them to travel solo, and now so many solo travelers. So it took me a long time, but at the same time, I didn't have the same goal at that time. I wasn't working in the same system um, where it was easy to monetize. These days, every platform knows that they are monetizing creators. So it's a different world. And there are times that I feel like really left behind in that, and I'm struggling to keep up. Um, yeah. Um, so it's around 2:50 right now. And I'll take a couple more questions if you guys have any. If not, then I'm like just like call it a day. Anything else? No. Well, for the most part, I think what's next, Juliana? Thank you. What's next is I still want to get the group tours out there. So I'm still working on that. I am trying to aim to come back to YouTube. It's I'm trying to aim for fall. Um, The hard part is my energy's still low, it and I know that I probably can't do it without the help of, like, an editor. Um, so I think that's my new goal is to like, I have a Patreon page out there where, people support my channel, and so far it's always been within 30 to 50 people, and it's the same people, and I thank them for being there for me, especially during the pandemic, because it really I went through so much. Um, but my goal is to have that eventually pay for an editor to get some help, because I think if I have to right now I'm lifting so many heavy things, and editing takes a lot of time. And if I put all that time into editing, then I can't create these bigger projects, which allow me to be more sustainable as a channel. So the first goal is to be sustainable as a channel, but also to afford an editor so that I can rest just a little bit. Because I am on the second burnout already. Uh, I'm just trying to be really positive about it and show up kind of like smiley. But I have a lot of off days too, and because I'm juggling work on the outside to take care of my personal life, um, the girl traveler stuff, I'm also juggling in those little pockets of time. So I'm really trying to hold everything together, but I'm split in so many different directions. It's not even funny how many directions I've split myself into, in order to keep all of this stuff moving. So so I've put myself out for some opportunities where maybe I can get some travel, but I just don't want to take it out of my pocket in order to create content, which is what I'm doing, or what I've been doing partially. With this pandemic, it'll be me starting all over again and taking money out of my pocket. So, like, that conference where I was invited to Memphis was helpful because it got me to Memphis so that I could film stuff. And that's how I kind of always ran, where if I could find an opportunity like that, even if it's a press trip, if if it allowed me to generate good and interesting content, then I would take it, because I knew I needed to feed the channel and the content in it and my audiences. But in the end, I am getting older and I'm starting to feel it. So So we'll see. El Capitan says, why not break the work and production into seasons? That way you can take some vacay, but your viewers have an upcoming puzzle that keeps us interested. What's the next season going to be? El Capitan, I thought of that. I really, really, really did. And that's what that was what I was aiming for. And that's why I was like, okay, in September I'll come out again with new content. But it's already like August. And I have all my ideas. I have my Memphis content still sitting, or my Memphis footage still sitting in my editing bay, um, while I try to figure out how to launch these group trips and also show up on Instagram and Facebook and keep it all going. So so I had the idea of seasons, and I was trying to play it out, and we'll see how it works. Because I'm already ready for another vacation, even though you guys haven't seen me come up yet. Um, yeah, I have put myself out for opportunities that might pay for my travels, but it won't pay for my time. Uh, so we'll see. And when I say pay for my travel, just like get me a plane ticket. So I'm really starting out from scratch again. So that's where I'm wondering how much it's worth to me. I put in so much to keep this channel and blog going. Um, but it's just a lot of work. It's more, and with platforms being the way they are now, and the whole scene changing, it's even like more work than more work. So we'll see. Yeah, Juliana, I think, yeah, in the end you have to do what makes you happy. It's a struggle because I really do feel fulfilled by offering value to audiences and inspiring people. I really love making videos. Like I love videos, and that's why I think that's what led to, you know, this channel, is because I want to keep my video making alive. Um, whatever I've done creatively, travel just naturally came. It was never my first go-to. My first go-to was always my creativity, and then the travel just naturally goes, "Phew," we're part of it. Um, but but yeah, it's gotten to that level where I feel like my energies are just so depleted a lot, and it becomes harder to recover because the workload is just so much that I feel like I'm just covered by that workload. um, Thank you for offering your ear to talk, Hawaiian Sea. But if there are no other questions that you have for me, guys, then I will sign off for now. I think the next big update will either be a video, a full length video. Well, not tomorrow or not next week, but the next time I come out with a full length video, it'll either be a live stream or a full length video, or an update or announcement of yeah, success in launching a tour. Um, Mara, I hope that you find some opportunities to get you out there. You're amazing no matter what you decide. We're back making a new adventure. Is that Minnesota? Because we couldn't afford Maui. Oh yeah, the Hawaiian Islands are not cheap. I mean, we're lucky that everything's free in terms of nature and being able to enjoy it, but the cost of living here is you find many people with more than one job. So, okay. So that's it. I thank you all for joining me, and I will see you guys again. Please follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Um, if you love my work and want to see me continue, then please consider supporting me on Patreon as well. And I look forward to offering more tips also. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about those tips, and if you have any questions that you would love to see me do in a video, because I'm still looking for more ideas for my short form videos. And yeah, okay, so leave them down in the comments below. Don't forget to give me a little like, always helps me and helps the video a little bit. Okay, till then, I take care. I love you all.